Hello, this is Matthew Erickson with the GAM470 class, Assignment 7. This week was all about graphic objects. We'll just get right into it here. Before I do that, I got a new recording software, so please let me know in the your comments if this one works better or not, because the other one wasn't working well. Just to start out, we started out with the texture game object. This one was pretty simple. I mean, it was just adding the texture down here in the header and then being able to set that, and then you set everything up top and you just call render down here after you set up the context and the camera. And if we run it, yeah, we can see the ship is a model I found online that I rendered, and from the file like we were supposed to. And then I've got a skybox in here, which I got the skybox working with the graphic object just by adding in a get model function to the skybox and then storing that model. Pretty simple. So then question two was about the color lights. Again, it was along the same ideas, just replacing the texture with the material that we needed, and then making sure you added a couple, wrong one, this file, making sure you added a couple lights here. With this one, decided to use the terrain. We got a little ship here flying around that you can see light bouncing off of, but my favorite thing about this one was the sun, which I did a neat little trick where I've just got a spotlight centered on the player, its position is on the player, and then it's just always pointing at the sun, no matter where you are, so it always looks like it's shining. I thought that was a little neat trick just to do. And then and I really like the way that sun one turned out, so I wouldn't be surprised if I end up using that in my final project. So we go on to the third question, which was the textured lights. Again, pretty simple. You're just adding material and texture instead of just a material or whatever you needed before. Same thing over here. You can call your stuff and then just render it. We load this one up. So we've got the sand texture on our terrain, which actually for the most part came out pretty good. I might have to look into a little bit of making the distance look a little better, but our ship here, I made a little bit bigger on this one. It's got a nice texture on it. The sun, I tried putting a texture on just the sphere. This might be the textured that I just put on there weird. That might be why it just looks weird, but overall I didn't really like how it came out, so I'm probably just gonna stick with the light one, or the color one, because that one actually came out looking really good. But yeah, so we've got that. Then we move on to question 4, which was adding it in based on the meshes, multiple meshes per model. All this one needed to do was you just change the objects that make it its own to arrays, whether that be material, color, texture, or both, and then you can set them by number, depending on which mesh in the number you are which mesh number you wanted to change. Down here, most of them I did just the set individually. Down here I did do one where I set them all to all 4 to the same thing with one function call, and then there's just a couple of different things you have to add in here and there, and then you can just call render on them. And when we render this one, I just decided to use your cabin with 4 meshes because it was the easiest to just use. Let's see if it'll load up here. So I just made a line of 4 cabins just to show off the differences of each one. Like the house over here, I use my pointer instead of my mouse instead of my finger. It works better. It's the same house, just one has a light on it and one is just the normal color game object, and the same thing over here with the 2 textured houses, and then there's a spotlight up above the 2 sets of houses just to show kind of what the lights are doing to it. But yeah, so that would be those 4. Then we've got the further work question, which is how would we go about it if we want to have a different shader per mesh? That would come along. You could make, if you make a game object that has one of each type of shader stored in it, and then you can just use, the different shaders. You could have another array that is basically a pointer, or, what's effectively a pointer, with a number or an enum stored in there. And then it would, based on what you put in there, you could point it at the different shaders in the class. So, thank you.